The woman was cleaning up the glass fragments on the ground with a mop. From rinsing the mop, her hands became covered with cuts. She looked at her blood-stained hands and hurried to her daughter's room. There, she drew her vision with a crayon. It was this moment of inspiration and her resilience that led to the brilliant life of this housewife. In the 1990s, in New York, Joy Mangano was a divorced 30-year-old single mother with 2 kids and her mother, Terry, who was obsessed with TV series after her own divorce. Joy's father, Rudy, was refunded by his girlfriend Sharon after their breakup. As he helps Joy with the mortgage, whenever he has nowhere else to go, he returns to Joy's house. The parents always have huge quarrels when they meet. One of these ended with Rudy smashing everything to pieces. Joy had no choice but to quickly put her father in the basement with the other refunded player, her ex-husband, Tony. They had been divorced for more than 2 years. He is a small-time singer, still living in the basement, drinking excessively, and hoping to become a star. The father and ex-husband started quarreling as soon as they met. Joy was in a hurry to go to work, so she divided the space with a roll of toilet paper, leaving them to survive on their own. As Joy rushed to work, she encountered her paternal half-sister, Peggy. Peggy helps to take Grandma Mimi and the kids to school, but she never forgets to mock Joy's life and say mean things about Joy to the kids. At the airline where Joy works, a customer greeted her by throwing papers in her face. Soon after, the manager informed Joy that she needed to take on the night shift. With kids at home to care for, she had to quit this job. Over the years, Joy has helped Rudy with his accounting. She soon discovers Rudy is back in the dating game with an Italian lady named Trudy. Rudy puts on his polo by Ralph Lauren. Tony is not fond of Rudy's cologne choice, as it smells like Tony's grandmother. The water pipe in Terry's room needs to be repaired, as she keeps sticking hair down the drain. Unable to fix this herself, Joy needs to hire a plumber this time. She reads to her daughter before bed, telling the story of the cicada, which lives underground for 17 years. Joy can't understand why something has to hide for so long. After settling the children, Joy is exhausted. She fell quietly beside the bed. This numb life had already exhausted all her energy. In her dreams, she was asked if she remembered the dream she lost 17 years ago. On the day her parents divorced, Peggy went with Rudy, and Joy was torn between her parents as her paper creations were ripped apart. After learning about Joy's recent troubles, her best friend Jackie came over to comfort her. The two chatted about their daily routines and their childhood dreams. Joy had loved inventions and creations since she was a child. She had made many beautiful things and looked forward to a bright future. But when her parents divorced, they destroyed her creative castle and her dream of being a small inventor. Her father turned around to pursue new love, while her mother cried watching soap operas all day long. Joy had to grow up quickly and take care of her mother. When she was a teenager working in a pet store, she invented a dog collar. When Joy asked her mother to apply for a patent for her, she didn't. A pet company made a fortune the next year with a similar product. Later, when Joy was at her lowest, she met Tony, a young man with a dream of becoming a singer like Tom Jones. He brought a ray of sunshine to Joy in her dark days. Rudy wasn't a fan of Tony. At the wedding, Rudy announced his 2 failed marriages with pride, causing Joy to burst into tears. Joy and Tony's marriage, brought together by love, seemed to have become another source of her tragic fate. After their marriage, Joy was busy with the kids and work, while Tony lay at home during the day and sang at the club at night. A marriage built on a dream without financial stability did not last long. Joy reached the point of a breakdown, and unfortunately, she ended up in a divorce like her parents. Time moves forward to where Joy is now. Rudy's date with Trudy went really well. The rich widow invited his family to come to her yacht, specifically reminding him not to bring red wine as it would stain the teakwood. Of course, Tony showed up with red wine, but his charm soon won over Trudy. They were enjoying a brief moment of comfort at sea when a strong wave caused the red wine to shatter on the teakwood deck. Joy cleaned up the mess, and while wringing the mop, she cut herself on the glass. The family helped her patch up, and Joy mumbled to herself about a continuous loop. This strange behavior led the family to think she was feeling unwell. Rudy suggested she take some expired cough medicine to help her fall into a deep sleep. Toussaint, the Haitian plumber, shows up to fix the leak in Terry's room. That night, Joy has another dream. In it, her younger self reminds her of how she used to make things, pointing out that now she's hiding from the world and herself. The next morning, Joy tells Tony and Rudy that they all need to move on and that they should move out. She has always been there for her father and the family, but it's time for a change. Joy asks Rudy to set up a meeting with Trudy to discuss the investment in manufacturing her new idea. Joy begins to create her first sketch using Christie's crayon. It is a handle with a sleeve that connects to the mop head, welded into a pipe that can twist, attached to 300 feet of continuous cotton loops. Joy presents this great invention to Trudy. During the meeting, Peggy expresses interest in launching new ventures with Rudy's existing business, which had not been mentioned before. Trudy, before investing her late husband, Morris's money, asks Joy some serious questions. She has her lawyer run a worldwide patent search to ensure the product isn't already made and to protect it. Joy later explains to Christy that they found a guy in Dallas, Texas, who works for and represents a man in Hong Kong who has an idea that might be similar to the mop. During the meeting, the family, Trudy, and Tony discussed the need to pay a royalty fee on the patent to the Dallas representative to avoid potential claims. Tony points out that this individual also owns the lowest cost metal and plastic injection molding manufacturing plant in California. He also notes that Morris's lawyer specializes in garnet businesses, not manufacturing. The concern is whether Joy would be at a disadvantage due to the potential conflict of interest with the patent holder being both licensor and manufacturer. The family quickly interrupts Tony as he has never owned a business. The parts arrive from California, along with a refined model of the Miracle Mop. Joy trains the staff to assemble the invention, and Rudy is proud of her. The first production round costs $15,000. Gerhardt from Dallas keeps billing Joy for their manufacturing mistakes, which she refuses to pay and tells others not to either. Joy works on selling her invention. A local business convinces her to take it to big corporations to push her product. Despite having a high-quality mop priced at $19.95, the investor prefers selling $5 mops in large quantities. Joy is told to go home and take care of her family, implying ideas are just ideas. With little success, Joy demonstrates the mop outside of Kmart with Christy. Jackie jumps in to help. Joy hears someone pitching the mop of the future, a self-wringing mop with a removable, machine-washable head. This starts to attract attention. Tony walks by with Angela, his new girlfriend, and watches as the police confiscate Joy's mops. Angela tells Joy it's embarrassing to have Joy's daughter sell things in public. After a long day, the telephone is cut off because Joy didn't pay the bills. Grandma Mimi informs Joy that Tommy has a fever. Mimi always believed in Joy. Despite the disastrous day, Mimi continued to encourage her. Christy was also bullied at school by kids who called Joy a cleaner. Joy reminded Christy that there is no shame in one's job and that we are not defined by what we do for work. Tony shows up to help Joy. Though divorced, they remain great friends. The next day, Tony takes Joy to Pennsylvania. She has no idea who she's meeting, but presents the self-wringing mop to businessmen who've probably never used a mop before. Neil Walker, an executive at QVC, the American free-to-air television network and flagship shopping channel, used to run Kmart and decides what sells on the channel. Neil prioritizes quality, value, and convenience. Joy shows Neil the lightweight mop with 10 times more absorbent power. With one try, she cleans up a mess without wringing it by hand, avoiding contact with other surfaces. The mop also has a detachable, machine-washable head, something unique in the market. Neil asks if she can produce 50,000 mops by next week. He introduces Todd, the top seller, to launch Joy's mop. Joy emphasizes that this invention cost her everything, which puts tremendous pressure on Todd. Joan Rivers appears, advising Joy to dress up if she wants to succeed in a man's world. Joy watches Joan in action, selling a necklace. Neil emphasizes focusing on the hands holding the product and the voice. Calls start coming in, generating real sales. Joy is convinced this will work. However, Todd fails to demonstrate the mop's function, and the sales flop. $200,000 is gone. Mimi is the only one convinced they will give Joy another chance. Everyone else is silent. Neil calls Joy, assuring her there might be a slim chance of reimbursement. In more debt than ever, Joy visits Neil and convinces him to let her demonstrate the mop herself. It's the first time a regular person, not a star, will present a product on stage. Despite having no television experience, Joy insists. Before the broadcast, Joy decides to go on as herself, not dolled up. When the camera rolls, she initially freezes under the lights. A friendly call from Jackie, her best friend, comes in. Jackie asks about a mop that doesn't need hand-wringing, which makes her hands raw. Joy explains how she invented the mop after cutting her hands on shattered glass while wringing a mop. Joy cleans up a spill with the miracle mop with one wring. One wring cleans the entire kitchen. Neil sees this woman as a whole new business. At $19.95, the phones ring nonstop. They close at 50,000 mops. Neil and Joy promise to become adversaries in commerce in the future. Joy became a regular at QVC, and the sales continued to rise. One day, she received a call with the news that Mimi, the woman who always believed in her and watched over her, had passed away. Gerhardt raised his production pricing per unit again. Rudy sent Peggy as the representative for Miracle Mop. Peggy paid Gerhardt the $20,000 Joy owed to fill the $100,000 order at a $2 increase per unit. Previous orders were sold at a fixed price, and any increase would cause Joy to incur more debt and lose money. Peggy and Rudy also had their own invention ideas they planned to work on with Gerhardt. Peggy thought what Joy did was not that difficult. Joy firmly told them never to speak on her behalf about her business again. The next day, Joy headed to California. Fabri-Pac's display proudly showcased Miracle Mop parts as their own created product. She met Gerhardt, whose boss, Derek Markham, owns or collects royalties for several products and makes decisions on price adjustments. Joy had already paid $500,000 for production, $50,000 in advance royalty, plus another $20,000 in increased fees from Peggy, who wasn't even a representative at Joy's company. Gerhardt insisted the molds needed to be remade regularly to keep up with demand, yet they were not ready to show Joy. Joy took a washroom trip to sneak into the factory, where she soon discovered her molds and designs labeled as patented by Fabri-Pac. Gerhardt and his men wouldn't let Joy take her properties back. The police were called to take Joy away for trespassing. Rudy and Trudy bailed Joy out and brought a patent lawyer who stated that when Peggy paid royalties to Derek Markham in Texas, it put her parts and molds under his patent. QVC required Joy to deliver a fully patented product. Joy was not properly advised, and it was all too late now. Tony was the only one who defended Joy when everyone else deflected responsibility and the pressure they had put on her throughout the process. She was $500,000 in debt. Trudy and Rudy needed Joy to file for bankruptcy. Joy was heartbroken when Christy reminded her that Mimi had said Joy was the one who would bring the family to success. Perhaps she should have just stayed home and done what every housewife does. That night, Joy cut off her hair. Was this the end of Miracle Mop? Joy walked toward a hotel in Dallas and looked out the window, waiting for someone. When Derek Markham arrived, she requested him to leave the door open. She made a call to Mr. Christopher in Hong Kong, who had no idea if his patent for a self-wringing mop had value or even worked. They had never made or sold a mop, while Joy had sold over 200,000 mops. Interestingly, Joy had paid $50,000 in advance on behalf of Mr. Christopher to Derek Markham. This was a case of fraud and embezzlement, and there were no similarities in design, so no patent or royalty was needed. Another case of fraud. Joy heard how Derek would correct the mistake before taking legal action. With all her and her family's hard-earned money, Joy patiently listened to him. When the offer was substantial, Joy demanded her molds back and got Derek to sign the terms. This woman walked down the street that day, not knowing her life was forever changed and that in the future she would go on to make 100 more record-setting patents. Later, she moved into a big home and her mother found new happiness. She paid for products made by Rudy, Trudy, and Peggy. Though they failed and tried to sue for ownership of her company, Joy still paid and loved Rudy. She crossed paths with Neil again as her company outgrew QVC at the time. Her ex, Tony, and her best friend Jackie remained by her side as advisors. She supported and funded creations from everyday people who had great ideas and inventions. She helped them firsthand, knowing how difficult it is when you believe you have something great, but no one else does, and how challenging the road ahead may be. This is a story inspired by Joy Mangano, the American inventor and entrepreneur. For upcoming content, click like, pound that subscribe, and hit notification. Thank you for watching.